Very good. Welcome, welcome. Introducing Nata. She's here to lead us in this conversation about microdosing. This is something she has a great deal of experience with, and I'm thrilled because I think it's an interesting conversation, and we all want in on it. So, handing it over to you, Nata. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Appreciate you. Thank you for holding this space. As always, deep bows to you. Welcome, everyone, and everyone watching the recording. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Nata, as Tracy just introduced me. I wanted to, share something very sacred. I call it a call to the sacred because these medicines are very sacred and they play a very important role, I believe, in the transition of what we are experiencing globally. And I can speak to my own experience and what, you know, sorry, I got distracted by the ringing doorbell. Also, Tracy, if you don't mind just watching the chat, because I won't be able to see the chat when the presentation window's open, but once I come out of that, then I can come into that. So what I typically like to do before I start, I'll introduce myself. As some of you may already know, my name is Nata. I am a medicine woman, meaning I work with sacred plant medicines, herbal medicines, as well as fulfilling my passions as a guide. I host ceremonial spaces for transformation and transilience, um, specifically to work through ancestral trauma, any wounds that we're carrying and holding on to us that we actually don't even know, and very multi-dimensional space and capacity that I work in, everything from trauma to our own eating habits, self-discovery, spiritual awakening has been a really big part of my life, Kundalini awakening. And I'd like to weave all of this through my teachings, my ceremony work, and my retreats as well. So that's just a little bit about me. My intention is to guide my clients to make make aligned choices in their life, because oftentimes if we're off balance, if we're off kilter, then we're going to make decisions in base from flight or flight, and then we already know kind of what happens there. So through my own in-body transformation, that's what I hope to resonate into the field for those who are navigating change or creating something, craving something more from their life, from this life, so that they can, better I like to say, understand themselves on their journey. So just a quick drop in. I love to start just by, we'll just do like a gentle drop in meditation. So you can find yourself either sitting upright or laying down flat or standing, whatever feels good to you. And just an invitation to close your eyes. And we'll just begin by just deepening our breath. Allowing ourselves to land here in this space, this virtual space, is also a space as if we were here together in person. And I have lit our sacred fire. I have a candle going here for our sacred fire, which I will blow out at the end of our ceremony time here today. And the invitation is just to deepen here, allowing ourselves to feel our sit bones on our chairs or wherever we're sitting, or if we're standing, just to feel our feet rooted into the earth. Bringing awareness to the breath, deepening in through the nose, out through the nose, in, out. And for anyone joining, we're just invitation to gently close your eyes and allow ourselves to land into our virtual space and our ceremony here today. Deepening through the nose, releasing through the nose, allowing ourselves to just be here for this moment, for this time that we have here together. Feeling our grounding. If we are sitting, feeling the sit bones connected to the chair. Imagining a root the size of your hips going straight into the floorboards underneath you, their home, wherever you are. Feeling that cord going all the way to the core of the earth. And as it travels down, invitation to elongate your spine. Imagining a gentle cord just pulling you from the top of your head, perhaps slightly tucking your chin, elongating. Remembering our open front, opening in our front chest, rolling our shoulders back, strong back. Breathing here, taking a few breaths into the heart space. From this core stance, we are rooted in our integrity, witnessing our breath, feeling our bellies expand, feeling the grounding cord right into the earth. With every inhalation, elongating the spine. Bringing our awareness again to the heart center. Taking a few deep breaths right into the center of our hearts. Invoking unconditional love, perhaps sparks of curiosity, a sense of openness. Taking a scan of your body, noticing any areas where that you may be experiencing temperature changes, any aches or pains. Again, no need to attach story here, just observing, just witnessing to our bodies. An invitation in the next few breaths to send your breath to these areas of your body where you may be experiencing some changes in temperature or feeling. Just taking a few moments to breathe into those areas of your body. And asking ourselves, how do I wish to show up for this time together? Open, curious, attuned, present. Allowing ourselves to be here now. Letting go of any agendas or to-do lists, knowing that this time is sacred, knowing that there was something greater that pulled us into this conversation. On the next inhalation, we'll take a deep breath in all the way to the top. We'll take a hold at the top. We'll take another sip of air and hold. And on my count, we'll exhale and hold at the bottom with no air in and no air out. In 3, 2, and 1. Letting go. Fully exhaling all the air. Sealed at the bottom, no air in, no air out. And squeeze. And breathe. Inhale, audible sigh. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale. And releasing. And 1 more time. Inhale. And letting go. And when you feel ready, opening your eyes, welcome yourselves back into the space. Okay, so just a gentle grounding practice, and this is actually something I teach in all my containers when we're working Um, in any type of transformation, we should also always learn how to regulate our nervous systems. It's something that I do with all my coaching clients. Everything is always grounded first. Let's land in, let's connect with our hearts, why we're here, and everything else can just kind of simmer away, so that we can be here and be present. Please know that we learn the best when we are in flow and we can move. So you'll see me moving a lot around a lot. So invitation to honor your body. If you need to get up, if you need to stretch, if it's feeling like a lot, stretch it out, right? This is how we learn. Cognition is we have to move our bodies. So invitation just to be sovereign. It's your space too. So disclaimer, this is for educational purposes. I'm not here to advise you on anything nor replace any sort of medical or legal advice. That is my honor here. So please use your own discernment. I just want to thank you all, and Tracy, thank you for holding this space and igniting this conversation just through our own encounters. It's just been really beautiful. So I appreciate you. And may you, receive what you want to receive from this and leave what doesn't serve you and take what does and open your hearts to curiosity. If you have questions, you can either drop them in the chat or we're going to have questions and answers at the end. So please keep that. We'll probably cover a lot. So I'm going to try to also make this more interactive with journaling prompts as well. And we're going to go right into probably the first one. Yeah, so just a few questions that you can just jot down for yourself. And that also helps me understand if you also want to drop in the chat, like what brought you here? That's always the first question I want to understand from people, like what brought you here and why now? And what feelings, maybe something stirring within you, maybe there's something you're feeling, like what are you feeling? And what are you aware of? So just a few questions to ask yourself. And again, you don't have to answer all these questions right away. You can also note these down, make some jot forms, and you can come back to these questions because these are really great questions to remind ourselves with anything that we're doing, right? What brought me here? What is that? What am I aware of? That curiosity. We want to spark that curiosity. So knowing why, and might not know the why, but now that we're asking it, right, we're also opening ourselves to spirit to, maybe perhaps support the answer into that question. And so many of us are feeling a lot of changes within ourselves. And just maybe note down maybe what you're feeling. If you'd like to drop it in the chat, that'd be awesome too. Maybe what you're feeling, what brought you here. I'll give you a few moments there. Does anybody like to come off mute and maybe share a point or two of these reflections? Space is open.
I'll be your icebreaker. If you're
Okay.
new to me, I'm Tracy. This screen will always say the last teacher that taught a virtual class. So today it says Sierra, but I'm Tracy. And really just curiosity brought me here. And one of the things that I've been wondering about as this conversation has bubbled up and I've caught different podcasts and glimmers from different people is just about brain health. And I really liked our conversation, Nata, because it was important to me um, for the consideration to be really sacred and respectful. So I know a lot of people are having this conversation from different like philosophical backgrounds or different genres or understandings, but I appreciated that you were bringing that to the conversation. It was important to me.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
If you don't want to chat, you can put it in the chat box and I'll read it if you'd rather not put your mic on and share personally. Just offer that and then we can go ahead and move on if no one wants to share. Screen was frozen. I wondered if she was having technical problems. Wait for her to pop back on. At least the recording is still going. I won't have to piece things together. Back on in a second. Well, would you like me to entertain you? This is what I've got here. And the rest of my dinner, which has salmon in the bowl tonight. And that's why she's here. She's just every once in a while giving me a little growl, telling me that she wants a little bit of my salmon. And I don't share it out of my bowl until I'm all done and kind of cleaning up in the kitchen. So we're besties, but there's a reason.
She's so unbelievably cute, Tracy.
She's really, really cute. She's a little bit of a handful, so not everybody loves her all the time, but she's very
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like she's being a good girl tonight.
she's 4, so she's worked really hard and she's learned 4 years. You.
Was she doing the grounding practices with us?
She was like all hunched down. Sometimes when I'm meditating, I can just even think to her because she likes to like lick my arm, which is only fun for me for a moment, so like if I just think, stop, lay down, that's it. She'll like stop and she'll lay down. So I think we have like, we have a connection, me and Sita, but she really wants my salmon tonight.
So cute.
Where's Nata? Let's go, honey. Where are you? Oh, they did say blackouts. All right, it's loading. She's in Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
if I give you one bite, you'll be wanting more. I'm gonna take the bowl in so that she gets settled and she doesn't have to be tormented by it. Thanks for being patient, y'all. Jill, how are you doing? Oh, she's trying to figure out Zoom. I love it. Don't worry about it. It should be down in the lower left corner, but if you're using your phone, you're using your phone. So I don't know. I only know on my laptop because that's how I use it. I love you too. I miss you. No. Yeah, I'll leave it there today. It's kind of cool to have rain. We haven't had rain in a really long time. If there's any luck for Nata. All right, she's resetting. Poor thing, her neighbor had to help her. There we go. Yay. Oh, Leah. Hi, Leah. It's Tracy. And Nata got booted off the internet, so we're waiting for her to click back on. It was easy to do the screen share though, so once she gets back on, it should be quick to get her. She says she got it.
Tracy, does it matter if if she's the one leading the Zoom and if she leaves? Like,
No,
can she come back in?
yeah, she can come back in. Just like
Okay.
you left, you were able to get on with a different device.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm leading it, so that's why. Otherwise,
Oh,
we all would have lost. She would have lost all of us.
okay.
Like if mine goes out, you guys are all lost because it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Oh, so you're leading. I thought she was. Okay. I'm going to unmute again and enjoy the silence.
Right?
Isn't that funny?
Isn't that funny? Can you screen share?
Yes. My apologies on behalf of.
Fine. We got a little visit from my puppy and
Go puppy.
right. I'm
Do I
excellent.
do you see that? Or hold on. Where's it?
And Leah was able to hop on, so
Hi, Leah. So,
And it looks like it's still recording. Yes?
the recording, yes. I didn't want to stop the recording because I like it all in one. Here's your screen share, but I don't see your Canva.
there it is. What's really amazing is this would normally dysregulate me, like before, the old me would be so dysregulated. I'd be like sweating and like not being able to even function. And I was just like, okay, this is what I just got served. Okay, amazing. Okay, how are we gonna make this work? So here we are. Just trying to find this now. Hmm. Ah, do you see this?
Yes, we do. We see. Excellent.
Okay, so we're recording and we see this. Yeah.
We
Thank you. So, why I got into psychedelics and plant medicines. Um, so my soul was craving for something more. I longed for a deeper self-understanding, a greater sense of meaning, and purpose. And it was interesting as a mom, I felt really purposelessness, which is people wait their whole life to have this opportunity. And I was like, something's up here. There's something more to this life. And I'd always been exploring the esoterics and kind of being in that realm of curiosity and what was out there. But I was seeking something more clarity. There was like something that was really pressing me to to know that there was something more, but wasn't sure how to get there. So my own journey, I was kind of everywhere and anywhere. I was going through in and out of depression. I had a really early onset awakening at 11 when I had my near-death experience, and I've spoken that on the podcast before. And then after I had kids, everything had, Shakti wanted to rise and everything was being, it was coming out. I didn't even know how to deal with all of this. I was bedridden. I was diagnosed with all kinds of things from connective tissue disease to, I thought I had lupus at one point. There was all kinds of stuff was going on. Everything was suffering around me. My relationships, my connection with my children's, my own belief system was actually what was actually spinning me out. I had all these belief systems that were just spinning me out. I call them cute stories now. And I felt really blocked as the feminine. And I couldn't pinpoint why was I so blocked, what was going on. And I just wanted to be embodied and I wanted to be able to walk in places confidently and not have to shrink and not have to worry about all my psychic stuff. And so this like deeper desire for not only for myself, but I would witness, friends who had been doing psychedelics who just had this amazing connection with spirit and with all living things. So like the animals, the trees, and all like I was just like, wow, I was craving that. And I also wanted to feel liberated. And so that was a big thing for me, to feel free and liberated, but I wasn't even sure what was, holding me. And this is aside just from microdosing. I had kind of went the deeper route, went macrodosing, and then I got into microdosing, but I would probably do it the reverse if I knew better. So just, and again, like something maybe you can reflect on later. We don't have to do this now. Just like what meaning and purpose do I wish to uncover at this time? So what is your soul wishing to uncover? This is always such a pressing kind of time. It's like, what is it that you're trying to uncover? Is it relationships? Is it your career? What's your purpose in this world, right? Like so many people are craving to know what their purpose in the world is. And I'll kind of talk about even a little bit about the meaning making crisis that we're under globally. And if you could dream up your most perfect story, what would this most amazing chapter of your life be? What would it read? So just like little notes to yourself to reflect on these questions. And just knowing that these times are going to require, it's something really significant that's happening around us, and everything's going to require a lot of courage right now, courage and dedication to our own practice. That's been my greatest teaching. And all of this is my own devotion to my practice and showing up for myself each and every day devoted to the light. And so this is the purpose and the anchoring of everything that I share with this world. And ultimately, in this journey, it's learning to trust your truth. And if we can't trust our truth, then that keeps us in disfulfillment and disembodiment and disconnected really from spirit and from our own bodies. So it is a really testing time. And just knowing that when we're centered, like that core stance, when we're standing or sitting with our backs uh, strong and our hearts are open and we're anchored in our truth, right? This is when we are most protected. This is where we can't be swayed and people are going to seep into our fields or energy is going to come in and out. We're anchored, right? That's the whole, that mindfulness is that kind of Zen practice. And so if we can continue to practice that, and that's something I always kind of bring into all of my embodied teachings, is how do we anchor that? So this is a quote by Stanislav Graf and his partner his ex-partner, Christina Groff. He was a psychiatrist and the principal developer of transpersonal psychology. You can look him up. He's very, very well known, and he was well known for his LSD trips and all the wisdom that came back with him. And he says people feel that their sense of identity is breaking down. Their old values no longer hold true, and the very ground beneath their personal realities is radically shifting, right? And we can feel that now, especially, and this quote is not so new, right? This has been out for a while. And so another really great quote is by John Vervaeke, and this you can find this on YouTube, Awakening from the Meaning Crisis. And he says, you cannot solve the meaning crisis with more information. What we need are practices that transform the way we see and the way we are, right? If we're constantly just taking more and more and more and more and more information, right? And AI is also like really supporting this. Are we really going to make that embodied transformation? Are we really going to support this idea of like crisis? And I love etymology, and I'll kind of talk about these words in etymology as well, like the word crisis. And so we're at a turning point, right? And so many now are like leaning towards, plant medicines. And I'll just kind of bunch them. They are fungi, but I'll refer to them as plant medicines. They're turning to plant medicines at this time to make more meaning of their life, to open these new pathways in their life. And another quote by Steingraff is psychedelics would be the study of the mind as the telescope was for astronomy or the microscope for biology. And so when we look at the human-centric crisis right now, we have a loneliness epidemic, we have a mental health crisis, and we have a housing crisis. These are three key things that we can see going on globally. And if we look at the word crisis, the etymology of crisis actually means it's a choice point. We've reached a choice point. It's a time to make a decision, right? Where the roads split and now you have to go this way or that way. And the word chaos, because a lot of people are in this like zone of chaos. And the actual etymology of chaos is gaping void, right? It's the gaping void. And that's also when you're working with psychedelics, and especially macrodosing, it is the gaping void. And that's where anything is possible. And I'll kind of share how that works in the brain. A widespread a widespread perception that modern life lacks significance, meaning, and purpose and meaning, purpose, and connectedness. This is again another quote from John Vervaeke in his series online that you can find. And this idea that we're separate and this myth of individualism, this is kind of what's been kind of embedded into the whole system that we've been raised in. And so now that's why this like identity crisis is going on for so many, or this need to make more meaning from this life, that we're not separate. And so these medicines, they help us to attune to our truth, to keep it simple. And our direct relationship with these medicines is the center of our own journey together, right? And so when I hold these containers, it's not just about popping a pill, it's not that. It's about how can we develop a relationship with these medicines, right? It's like we're introducing a consciousness into our being. We need to actually have a relationship with this consciousness. So for me personally, I know who grows my medicine, as I'm not yet. And that would be the next step, right? And so developing this versus just kind of like, oh, you need to help me or save me. These medicines aren't here to save us. They're here to help us open and widen our perspective and our lens, but we have to do the work. And so just covering, we've been through, the revolutions of the first industrial revolution, the second industrial revolution, third, and now we're in the fourth, right? And this is characterized by AI, primarily by AI, robotics, biotechnologies, quantum computing, nanotechnologies, blockchain. There's statistics that saying that it's quite intense, but I was saying about 40 to 50% of people will lose their jobs because of AI. Some people are quoting it more like 80 to 90, which is going to create more of a meaning-making crisis once people kind of attune to that. And this study was showing, this is actually from one of the Canadian statistic websites, saying that majority of artificial intelligence occupational exposure will be actually with people with graduate degree and like a bachelor's degree. So people who have more education will be more affected by the AI revolution that's going on. And it says here that, so this is one stat that says 83 to 90% of workers with bachelor's degree or higher were in jobs that could be highly exposed to AI related job transformation. And that's something to keep in mind also as space holders or people who are on this path as well as opening and doing our own work. Like AI can't take away our skills, right? We have skills, we have medicine to offer. Even like we'll never take away yoga, I will never take away these certain things, but we also have to be aware of we are in a collective field. And so if people are experiencing this, we're also going to be in some ways experiencing it. So it's just kind of a lens of what is going on globally. And what's the shift? We actually have to go from ego into eco. And how do we come into this like this lens of seeing the world, right? When we're in this soulful, hopeful kind of circle versus this paradigm this triangle that we're kind of used to, the ego, me, I story. So again, invitation to do your own work. You don't have to take my word on any of this. This is just my own discovery, my own mentors who have passed down this wisdom to me that I continue to share. So just continue to engage and question and get curious about this information. Altered states of consciousness reveal how to navigate disorientation and return to inner alignment. Cognitive confusion is a part of the rite of passage. So oftentimes when people are seeking these medicines, they're kind of in this like, something needs to change. And that's how I came to these medicines, because something needed to change. And I also wanted to get more centered in that. So I'm going to skip this for now. We can always come back to journal prompts. So microdosing a new reality is anchored in the path of embodied transformation as the path of the practice. So how do we become embodied in the transformation? So that we're not just seeking, that we can we can receive the wisdom, we can open it, and how do we embody this? And that is through our own practice, right? That is through all kinds of practices like yoga practice, meditation practice, transcendental meditation practices, visualization practices, all these kinds of tools, including, microdosing, can help to formulate this. And I'll talk about why and why that's important with neuroplasticity. And so, so the embodied transformation is it's there so that we remain consistent with our new behaviors. So this microdosing for me supports the consistency in my new behaviors and the ways I'm relating, as well as the knowledge, so my own inner knowledge and its own mental capacity in this. So presence, posture, breath, so everything that I was teaching in the beginning is the embodied transformation. That's how we can continue to show up. Are we facing the world from this like slouched over kind of, oh my God, this is happening to me, or are we coming to this anchored open posture of this presence, and how we regulate our nervous systems, how we make decisions in the world, how we communicate, how are we in harmonious relations with all our relationships. And I love the word transilience. This is an actual word, and trans meaning to go beyond, and silience means the satir comes from the word satir, which means to leap. So we're on this pathway to evolve, to leap into dimensions that we may not be so open, or perhaps the uncertainty could be a little bit off-putting. And so these medicines can actually support us in that. Resilience defined as flexibly adapting in the face of adversity and challenges. As we know, how's the world changing? We're going to be faced with a lot of this. So can we become more flexible? And I'm sure you've seen this model of this picture, so when we engage with these medicines to consciously create a different path forward, what do we actually need? What is it that we require to consistently take new actions? So it's not just about microdosing. It's not just about popping a pill and, well, I know I have microdosing. No, no, no. So it's going to take a lot, right? It's going to take our own actions, our own habits, our own feelings, our own beliefs, our stories, our neural nets, the neural pathway, right? Neuroplasticity, our thoughts and our behaviors. All of this will allow us to actually step into a new reality for the embodied transformation. So like we said, so in order for this to happen, we have to actually treat the root system. And when we speak about transformation, we're really speaking about the neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to learn and unlearn, right? Learn and unlearn. And I'm going to connect all these dots too. I'm going to just park this point here. So learning is a path of practice. So great question. What are psychedelics? If we break down the word psychedelic, we take the first part of the word psyche, which is the human spirit or the mind. And then delos is clear or manifest. And together it's mind manifesting. So psychedelics, there's many names for psychedelics. They've been oftentimes referred to as entheogens or empathogens, and they are psychoactive substances that produce alterations in conscious experience. And they can include changes in your cognition, your perception, your feelings, and your emotions. Other names here like ideogens, inspirogens, sacred plant medicines, hallucinogens, visionary plants, plant allies, spirit allies, mind expanders, right? expanding the mind. These are some common psychedelics. So we have psilocybin, which is and there's different strains of psilocybin. These are kind of more, I'll just kind of keep it simple for this presentation. So fungi psilocybin this is the one I primarily only work with psilocybin. I've also worked with ayahuasca, which would be more of a DMT. Also, again, is synthetic. I try to stay with natural. That's kind of where spirit guided me, is to stay natural. Although I have experienced LSD and it was pretty rad to experience. DMT, which is found in various plants and used in shamanic traditions, especially in ayahuasca, and DMT is known for its intense mystical experiences and potential for deep trauma healing. It is very, very intense. MDMA, also known as ecstasy or Molly, it's also, again, like a synthetic. It is a heart opener. It does make you feel like you're more connected. Oftentimes, some practitioners will combine psilocybin and they'll finish with MDMA so that the heart continues to open and you feel more connected, especially when you're working through harder trauma. So it has been there to support PTSD through and relationship therapy and emotional processing. Then, of course, there's mescaline, which is peyote or San Pedro, which is a cactus. We've been asked by the indigenous tribes not to use this medicine as it's very hard it takes about 80 years to grow one plant. One cactus. So we've been asked in our teachings not to be using this unless deeply called. And then ketamine, I don't necessarily consider ketamine. Not a lot of people will consider ketamine as a psychedelic because it is more of a dissociate. And I've had experience with that for pain management and working through that. This is just I can even provide these slides, but this is like a toxicity comparison showing psilocybin with most common substances. And if you can see here, it's amongst the lower ones. It's just a little bit higher than caffeine. So it's a very, very low toxicity, no fatal overdoses. I knew someone who took 45 grams of mushrooms, which I think it took him, he's still not back like that. I would never recommend that. But if you look at these other ones like nicotine and heroin and aspirin and alcohol, they're very high. They're very toxic for the body, whereas psilocybin is very, very, very low toxicity. So what does the neuroscience say? This is where all the juice is. This is what I love the most. And so a really easy way to explain what psilocybin and psychedelics do in the brain is if you look if you imagine a snow globe, right? And the brain is experiencing, what it was linked to, if you take the snow globe and you shake it up, and then suddenly all the snow comes back, right, onto the ground, and there's a fresh new track. So it disrupts. What it's doing is when we shake up this snow globe, the receptors in the brain, it disrupts all the rigid patterns and behaviors that we've been experiencing. Okay. So, and this is what we would call neuroplasticity in action within the brain. Why that's important. And I'll speak specifically to my own self. I had experienced trauma, near-death experience. I had sexual trauma from childhood that I didn't even know about, that was later revealed to me in a ceremony with ayahuasca. And so my way of interpreting the world was from fight or flight. Everything was a threat. Every man was a threat. Everything was like kind of looping in threat. Everything was just, no one had a chance really. And so what happened when working with psychedelics, it allowed me kind of to disrupt that rigid pattern. It was such a rigid pattern. It was such a strong ingrained belief that every man or everything was a threat that it didn't give me a chance to actually deepen or even like really fully be in my body. So with the use of psychedelics, I was able to disrupt that pattern and build new neural pathways. And so as we're disrupting our internal patterns to meet the demand of external disruption, if we think about fear loops and getting stuck in fight or flight, especially when we're trying to heal or create change in our life, it kind of keeps us stuck. So people with really entrenched beliefs may have a harder time integrating and moving through liminal space. So any changes in life, like if you're going through liminal space, examples is like you're getting married or someone passes away or you have to change jobs or you have to move. It makes it really hard for people to do these like simple things because of these really entrenched patterns in the brain. This is a study from Imperial College by Dr. Robin Carhart Harris. He is one of the leading researchers in psychedelics. So this is your brain, a sober brain. So this is just the connectivity in the brain, right? And then when you give someone psilocybin, right, look at all the new neural networks right? So this brain exhibits increased connectivity in a psilocybin state, suggesting enhanced information sharing and blur distinctions between functions. So why is this exciting? When we have heightened connectivity in the brain, we can then work with new behaviors, new thought patterns, evolve our perspective and from like seeing the world and how it can emerge. And it's leading to a novel way of perceiving the world. So they often also refer to this as when we before psychedelics, it's like we have this spotlight consciousness, right? There's a spotlight. But after utilizing psychedelics and working with psychedelics, it actually brings it out into like a lantern consciousness, right? Much like if you are, meditating every single day and transcendental meditations and Kundalini yoga, this will eventually start to happen. You'll start to widen your lens. With the use of psychedelics, it happens more faster, right? So insights involve transformative realization of reframing of a problem. So, and I can give you an example, like um, after a mushroom ceremony, I can actually see where I'm projecting onto someone, like my children, where I'm triggered by them and I'm projecting. And it gives me like this bird's eye view of exactly what is happening, which for me is like, if we want to be evolving and in our highest expression and most authentic expression, this is really, really important. So it enables individuals to see through illusions or misunderstandings into a deeper understanding of reality and oneself. Stan Groff also coined this term many years ago that psychedelics are not specific amplifiers. So meaning they're going to bring to the conscious what is unconscious, right? And we know that through shadow work, we have to bring what's in the shadows into the light so that we can have so we can free our energetic real estate from living in the shadows. This is another image right here. You can see here. So this is before the use of psychedelics, and this is after. So this is all synaptic plasticity improvement in the neural networks. For me, this is mind blowing because I oftentimes think about even children with like ADHD or like learning disabilities. And I can tell you, I was like self-diagnosed with ADHD and focus and all this kind of stuff. But after microdosing, I wrote all these presentations. My creativity exploded. I was so focused, like it truly, I could like literally feel it happening in my brain, which I think is with all of the mental health and everything that's going on in the world, this could be one of the greatest medicines to really support. But again, it could be a double-edged sword. What's adaptive can also be maladaptive. So it's how we're using this. Are we following a framework? Are we working in that window of plasticity to ingrain new behaviors and new belief systems and taking on, like starting something new, like going for walks and yoga and doing all these things? Or are we going back into our self-sabotaging behaviors, which is going to actually loop us into the old, right? So from a neuroscience perspective, if we want to get a little bit more technical, psilocybin affects 13 serotonin receptors, primarily the 5-HT2A receptor that's stimulated. And what happens is it actually dampens, it like kind of turns down the volume on your default mode network. And some people like to refer to the default mode network as your ego. It's like the chitter chattery storyteller all the time, and it just kind of turns it down. So then you're open to a to a higher level of consciousness. And it also the transmission of glutamate, which is responsible for cognition again, and is increased throughout the brain. So this neurotransmitter plays a major role in shaping learning and memory. So I went from like not able to focus, can't do this, can't do that, and now just like laser focused, building presentations, writing books, and doing all kinds of stuff that I never thought I'd be able to do. Serotonin is not just responsible for the happiness and feeling good, right? This is also cognition, our stress, how we manage stress, neuroplasticity, sleeping, our eating habits, our thermoregulation, memory, and our physiological processes like even vomiting is controlled by serotonin. So 90 to 95% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut. So this is why nutrition does matter. Probiotics can help us, antibiotics can harm us, right? Because it's disrupting the gut bacteria. Reflex drugs can harm us, GI infections can harm us, acupuncture can help us, right? Those meridians and getting that chi moving through the body can also support us. Breath work can help us, cold plunges can help, PMF therapy, and even connection to nature, right? Along with, of course, like all the other things that wellness kind of will support. So I'm going to skip through this. That's more on glutamate. That can be more of like in the back end if anybody wants to see. So this is serotonin right here. And then look at psilocybin. Look how similar they are. Look at the structure of it, how similar. This is DMT. Look how similar they are. So large, smaller, and this line. This is LSD, right? So this was kind of the first kind of findings of like what is going on based on the serotonin, which is really beautiful to witness this happening in neuroscience. Dr. Robin Carhart Harris says, we have shown for the first time clear changes in brain activity in depressed people treated with psilocybin after failing to respond to conventional treatments. Several of our patients describe feeling reset after the treatment and often use computer analogies. For example, one said he felt like his brain and had been defragmented, like a computer hard drive. And another said he felt rebooted. Psilocybin may be giving these individuals the temporary kickstart they need to break out of the depressive states, and these imaging results do tentatively support a reset analogy. Similar brain effects to these have been seen with electroconvulsive therapy. That's huge. For me, that was just like I had already done this before I even went into the science of it because I was deeply called and there was an intuitive knowing that this was the medicine for me. And then later I wanted to educate people about it. This is why I went deep into neuroscience to understand the brain and the activity. So this is the brain before and the brain after and how lit up it gets with the use of psilocybin, right? So going from like a depressive state, very disconnected into fully like lit up. So it's now, understanding the dosing and protocols for microdosing, I can share a little bit now about that. Um, so there's a microdose, there's a mini dose, there's a medium dose. They have hiker's doses. There's all kinds of doses. There's high dose, and then there's like a, I don't even like to call it, but they refer to it like a hero's dose, right? That's like where you have pure dissolution. So a microdose, it will range. It's so different on and everybody's teachings. So a microdose can range from 0.09 grams, where you're not feeling anything. I just want to tell you that with this. Now, some people would actually say that a mini dose is actually considered a microdose, right? So so the microdose is going to, it's going to help with flow state, improve your memory, enhanced athletic endurance, elevation of your symptoms of depression, anxiety, ADHD, alleviation, anxiety, ADHD, PTSD. This is all what their science has been showing. So anywhere between 0.09 to 0.75 grams would be considered a microdose. I kind of split it up into like a mini dose because some people don't actually like to even feel a little bit of it. And that can actually tell us, if we are nervous, it may amplify this nervousness. So that's why these embodied practices, learning how to breathe, learning how to regulate, putting on like Zen music and really making our home that environment to support what we're trying to do with this microdosing. And if anybody has questions, also in the chat, you can put about the microdosing, but I won't go too deep into this. But the medium dose, again, it's going to be more hallucinogen. Like I've done like a gram of mushrooms and danced for 5 hours on an ecstatic dance. And it helps me move through all kinds of traumas that I was ancestral, early on childhood problems, and everything was able to move more freely through the body. It's when we're holding and gripping and that it gets stuck and jammed in the body. So this expression has allowed that kind of to move through. Anything two and up, in my ceremony spaces, you're laying down, you have eye covers, there's music, it's a guided experience, and you're full on in this kind of relaxed setting for that setting matrix we'll talk about. These are these two, Paul Stamets, and so Paul Stamets was the mycologist. He's a very well-known psychedelic advocate to this day, and his brothers. And then James Fadiman also is a psychedelic researcher. And they both have different protocols. Paul Stamets' protocol was microdose 4 days, take 3 days off. James Fadiman, microdose 1 day, take 2 days off. Microdose 1 day, take 2 days off, right? So I worked with both of these protocols and I had to find what was good for me. And so I work with like intuitive protocols. So what I'm feeling, what I'm moving through, if I've, done some deeper shadow work, I might pause for a few days. Again, so it's good to try one, and this is why I've created like the workbooks in the actual program. You actually want to track it. It's really important. It's really important to track it to see how you're feeling because you're not going to remember. You're not going to remember everything. So in the tracking book, you track the day, how you're feeling before you microdose, how you're feeling after, how was your sleep, and then you're kind of having this like data, you're collecting data on yourself on which protocol is working. So these are the two main protocols. And again, some of them will also add certain supplements like niacin or NAC to support also the cognition and what's happening. Again, some people will say, I don't use any of that because of this and this. So we just have to kind of be mindful and see what works for us. So the potential benefits of microdosing. So this is a beautiful little kind of image here. So everything from increased energy, cognitive benefits, social benefits, creativity, reduced symptoms, improved mood, um, reduced anxiety, improved focus, self-efficacy, physiological enhancement. And I can speak to this. I can say it's tremendously helped me in all of these realms. Specifically in the social benefit, being someone who has a deep understanding of the realms and psychic abilities, it was really hard for me to be in big groups of people, let alone host things. So it really helped me to widen that lens. Um, and of course, it did stabilize. Also, it did stabilize my moods. I haven't microdosed probably in over a month, so I do take a lot of pauses, and I come to it when I need. And I also benefit from macrodosing sometimes versus microdosing. So research shows that people with depression or anxiety often have low levels of serotonin, as do people with post-traumatic stress disorder. So cluster headaches, anorexia, smoking addiction, and substance abuse, and the list goes on. So this was a study by Dr. Erica Zelfan. How many do microdose? Anonymous online survey, over 2,300 people surveyed, and 59% are familiar with microdosing and 70% tried microdosing. It just shows you a lot of people won't even talk about that they're microdosing because there's like also a level of shame, or like, there's a lot of shame around it for sure. Took me over 5 years to actually share this information because I was so afraid what my family would say. And now that I've moved back beyond that, here we are. So microdosing has been found to help with depression, ADHD, PTSD, emotional openness, enhanced creativity, burnout, irritability, stress, anxiety, various addictions like drugs, alcohol, and toxic habits. And I've seen this so many times that people just wipe out all of their addictions after microdosing, but also macrodosing, mood disorders, eating disorders, heightened spiritual awareness, and sadness, fear, loneliness, and apathy. Microdosing day-to-day benefits can include improved energy and motivation, increased focus and alertness, increased self-awareness, improved sleep and dreams, improved sex drives, physical energy, increased empathy and patience, and mood enhancements. Now, potential, there's always concerns, yeah? So it is important to understand that there is still limited scientific research on the subject of microdosing. However, anecdotal evidence is increasing every day. People are sharing their stories and personal experiences with microdosing, which is significant and worth exploring. And that's why I'm here to share my own story and how I wish I knew about this earlier, especially when I was going through postpartum, because I believe that it could have supported me a lot more. And I believe that in this ability to gain our interoceptive awareness, which I'm going to talk about in the next slides, being aware of our body and what we're experiencing gives us that direct connection, right? It is that direct connection. If we can be here and present with what's happening with our body changes and flow states, and then we're fully attuned, right? That's where we're also most protected. Some have said microdosing challenges, impaired energy, increased symptoms, impaired. So if there's increased symptoms, like more increased anxiety, then that's a time, that's also to listen, that there is something underlying there that's coming up that you're not actually acknowledging. And I've had experiences of that as well. And we also have to take into accordance, are you going through a spiritual awakening? Because there's also stuff that needs to come out and be healed with that as well. So physiological discomfort, some people have can't really handle how their stomach feels after. But again, there's solutions with that, like putting it in lemon juice, and the lemon teching will kind of take away the irritability in the stomach. Of course, and the biggest one is the legality of it as well. So just looking at the time. Okay, so when we're aware of our own senses, it allows us to cultivate a deeper understanding of our own well-being and our body and the world around us. And we know that our senses, the purpose of our senses is for survival, right? And so when we awaken our senses, we actually heighten our interoceptive awareness. Interoceptive awareness is the ability to sense, interpret, and acknowledge what's happening inside your body and your surroundings. That actually works beyond. So it includes noticing your internal sensations, emotions, and the movements that are happening. If you have poor interoceptive awareness, it's linked to anxiety, depression, PTSD, emotional dysregulation, eating disorders, addiction, suicide, trauma disorders. If we have a dampened awareness, this is usually referred to people with depression, so unaware of their temperature changes in the body, right? Not a lot of people even actually know that they have a body. And I know 15, 20 years ago, I was like, what? What body? And now it's about really connecting deeper and understanding this will help us to understand our own self. So the heightened awareness is if you're overly heightened, then it's likely that this is linked to people who have anxiety. And it's where do we find that balance, right? Where is that space in between? Are they safe? We kind of touched on a little bit earlier on the toxicity level, and psychedelics and LSD mushrooms are known to be gentle in the body when used wisely. They don't harm your organs and they aren't addictive. In fact, some are even used to help people heal from addiction, as I mentioned before. While these medicines are physically safe, they can still affect the mind in powerful ways. Even at a low dose, some people experience anxiety, heightened emotions, or unexpected feelings. Everyone's brain is different and everyone's body is different and everyone's life is different. And what they've been going through or navigating in this lifetime or in past lifetimes also does matter how we're approaching this medicine work. So it is important to start slow, to pay attention, and to see how you feel, right? This is why creating a safe container, supportive space for your journey. How do you ensure a safe journey? So this again, this is more applied to a macro dose, but I'm going to touch on it because I do think it's important when we are even when we're microdosing or even if we're increasing our microdose, that we also acknowledge the setting, the mindset. So the set is the mindset and of the individual. Where is our current mindset before we begin? And then the setting is the surrounding environment. Where am I microdosing, right? You don't want to be doing this and taking a little bit of high microdosing. You're out in the world somewhere and it's really overstimulating, and then you get overstimulated, and then it's just like a bit of a shit show. But if we can do this in a really balanced area and like make your home your sanctuary, then that's different. We also have to understand the matrix, our interpersonal relationships, who's present in their energy, cultural and societal influences, belief systems, conditioning, unconscious and ancestral imprints, family dynamics, and inherited trauma. And then beyond the cosmos blueprints, and this is why I love astrology, if we can understand Saturn placements and, our North Node and South Node, and, then we can also understand our wounds that we're bringing into this and how we can work to bring more balance in all of this. Contraindications. So again, with microdosing, there's not too much study on this. These more apply to larger doses, right? This is more of macro doses. And I've seen this actually people going through, and I myself going through a spiritual awakening, experienced psychosis on when I was working with ayahuasca, where it put me into spiritual emergency. If I had known this more gentler way with breath work and meditation and microdosing, it would have been a lot different. Anyone that's using SSRIs, especially ones with lithium, are strongly advised not to because it will actually boost more of the serotonin. So you could go into like overload of serotonin. Otherwise, pregnancy and breastfeeding, there's a whole other group out there that would say that that's not true. And I personally know mothers and whole core groups that are breastfeeding and are pregnant with microdosing, as well as there's indigenous cultures that drink ayahuasca throughout their whole pregnancy and even their young children will take sips of ayahuasca super early on. Anyone who has allergies, of course, to mushrooms, and anyone going through spiritual awakening, I would also probably speak to someone who has more experience with this, because it could actually not be as supportive in the beginning stages of Kundalini awakening. It could be overstimulating. So that's also something to think of. So the big question is, why were psychedelics banned? This is a big one. And so I love this quote by Terence McKenna, who was an American ethnobotanist and a mystic who advocated for the responsible use of naturally occurring psychedelic plants. And he said, psychedelics are illegal not because a loving government is concerned that you may jump out of a third-story window. Psychedelics are illegal because they dissolve opinion structures and culturally laid down models of behavior and information processing. They open you up to the possibility that everything you know is wrong. And he quoted that probably back in the 80s. So back in the 60s, the threat to social order and government control Psychedelics, I don't know if everyone knows this, but they were actually, there was something called MK Ultra. You can look it up. It was actually infiltrated by the CIA for mind control experiments. Their mind control and um, interrogation of controlling programming assassins. They actually brought this out to be able to use it to mind control people, especially in psychological warfare, destabilizing enemies, behavior modifications. So in the 60s, especially with LSD, there was a big LSD movement back in the 60s. For those of you who are old enough, that big like kind of like hippie movement that was happening, no, and the war again, like stopping the war and blah blah blah, that kind of blew up in the government's face because that wasn't their intention. Their intention was to control people with it, but they had discovered with LSD that it really was peace, love, and joy, and creating these beautiful sanctuaries. And so it was quickly put to a halt. They did this big campaign. Nixon actually did this in 71. President Nixon did this, declared the war on drugs, classifying LSD and psilocybin as substances labeling, sorry, as Schedule 1 substances, labeling them as having no medical value despite research proving otherwise. So this was to silence activists and revolutionaries, and it worked for majority. There was many that stayed underground and still have been practicing underground, but they cut out all of the research, all the funding for research. Everything was just halted because it went the wrong way, right? They didn't want that. They justified mass arrests and they protected pharmaceutical and government interests. So the suppression of consciousness and expansion of natural healing. That's not what that's not what was going to make really good forever clients of the pharmaceutical industry. So they obviously profit from dependency, whether through psychiatric medications, societal conformity, or fear-based control. Psychedelics and natural, powerful healing agents offered as an alternative path to healing, personal sovereignty, and mental liberation, posing a direct threat to big pharma. And this is all from institutions like Johns Hopkins, MAPS, which is one of the leading organizations in psychedelics safety and research, and Imperial College also validating this as well. So I believe that the resurgence of psychedelic healing is a return to the ancient wisdom. One of that has guided humanity for millennia. But every time this wisdom rises, there are forces that try to suppress it or control it. And we're going to see this. We already have pharmaceuticals jumping on this, creating psilocin, which is a synthetic version of psilocybin, in labs, and already kind of making it over-the-counter accessibility. So in many indigenous and earth-based traditions, healing is not an isolated journey. It's relational, right? We heal in community and connection with the earth, spirit. And this is like even, having a studio like Tracy's, like how healing is it to come there with community and sit in circle and see other like-minded beings who are also wanting to heal and to open. And so we have to remember this when we're doing these types of healing. We don't have to hide away and try and heal. Like we can come together and have these spaces for deeper reflection. I just want to get a pulse check. How's everyone doing? I know this is a lot of information. I'm trying to also stay on time to respect our time and cool. So in Central America, in the Aztec and Mazateca cultures, they believe that the mushrooms had divine properties and they were used during coronations and other important events until at least the 1500s. I mean, if you look here, these are their hand-carved stones illuminating the mushroom and how sacred it really was to them. They refer to these as the flesh of the gods. So if that's it's a very bold, the flesh of the gods. The historian suggests that the Aztec spiritual leaders used these hallucinogens to induce a changed state of awareness, believing it enabled communication with their gods and other spiritual entities. Maria Sabina was one of the indigenous Mazatecs who spoke no Spanish. She spoke her native tongue, and she was one of the greatest poets, but one of the greatest healers that all of them in the 1950s, all of the Americans heard about Maria and came for ceremonies and healing, and that later exploded. And of course, where we come with also with greed, that also made her a bit of a culprit in her own. But she referred to these mushrooms as niños santos, or holy children. And she said that all of her work, all of her poetry, anything that she shared, it was as she was an interpreter for these mushrooms, showing them the great reverence as the foundations of her work and offerings. she was truly one of the most remarkable women in this field of medicine work. So she is very highly regarded for this. So when we look at healing, right? Healing is the alchemy of turning pain into wisdom and wounds into portals of transformation. It takes courage to sit with what aches, to listen deeply to the messages of the body and to the soul. And and it will help us to transcend the old version of ourself. And I go deeper into this in the course of the human needs, and even looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs of the human needs, and how do we understand these teachings to support our own evolution, right? I won't go into any of that now because it's just super deep stuff. So, by quieting the mind, the story of me, we are able to gain deeper insights and expand our lens of seeing the world and come up with creative solutions to our questions, including how to heal our bodies, what are the next steps forward, and how to truly befriend ourselves on this path. And we already know and see what's going on in the world. And, if our planet even can make it through with everything that's happening in climate change and just the mass amount of garbage and over consumerism on this planet is something to really it's really something to question. Like, what is my role in this? Each of us play a role in this, each of us. And so this story of me kind of gets diluted into like, what are we here to do? This is how we transcend the I and come into the transcender offering. So I'll just touch a little bit on my offerings. I do have the microdosing new reality. The longer version is a 5-week immersion. It's called Rewired and Rising. It's to support anybody who's actively ready to lean in on this journey of microdosing. And it's going to include 4 group coaching, one Saturday dosing. So I also found it very supportive for people who are at a distance who wanted to microdose but didn't want to do it alone. Then I would host these virtual microdosing, which I thought was really beautiful, and a Telegram support chat for 5 weeks that we are together. And again, this can be done in group or one-on-one. And the investment is 444, and it's beginning this first one is beginning on the 21st. And we dive into this as well as like, am I in right relation with all aspects of my life? Right? Because it's hard to do, focus just on career, right? Or just on your physical body. So, but am I in right relation with my emotional health? How am I feeling? What about my physical health, my social health, my mental health, my spiritual health? So we go and break this down and get a good, nice pulse read on where we're kind of lacking integrity or where we need to shine some more light and be a little bit more compassionate and maybe give a little bit more to that. And so it's deep. I'll just say that. For those also who were curious, I know from even the breathworks for the medicine ceremonies, I call those journey within. It's a deep journey within, and it's done through a day retreat where it's a full day, and it's typically done in your hometown. And that is, we do a preparation call, there's preparation modules, everything is pre-recorded in the back end, and we have one call to kind of ground and teach these grounding modalities, nervous system regulation, and then of course there's an intention setting workbook. And then the day of the ceremony I call is the rite of passage, and that is a full day from like 10 to 7, sometimes even later. And that is, there's instructions before and after, and that is very beautiful. It's very intimate. It's usually about 4 to 8 people, usually women, actually. Women are the ones doing a lot of work, I've noticed. We're going deep into the work, and I have women from all ages come, and with all kinds from people who have had cancer or have cancer or just want to have support while going through a divorce or a liminal phase in their life. So they do these journeys. And I can say it's transformative, not just for myself, but just witnessing people in my own community who have journeyed and integrated this medicine as well. So that is one of the group offerings that I offer as well. And how it looks, because people are like, what does that even look like? What does a ceremony look like? So typically you would arrive, there would be an intention setting, you would land in, we would do grounding exercises, a breathing practice, and then we would serve the medicine within cacao and a cacao ceremony, kind of like the breath work. We would do some gentle grounding and breath, and then we go into journey space. There's eye folds, you're laying down, it's completely zen, it's beautiful, and then we go on a musical journey. And the musical journey is really curated to that day. The playlist usually comes to me within 24 hours, and I put together this curated experience, much like the breathworks if you've been. And then after the ceremony, we have like journaling, integration, laying around, dancing, whatever kind of is in flow. It's very beautiful. It's very intimate. And then we have, and everyone, once we go home, then we have an integration call that happens within a few days where people can share what's kind of unfolded for them, any deeper insights. It is a deeper time. You definitely want to have the day or two after to be with yourself and to kind of go deeper into the insights of what you received. So that would kind of just be an illustration of how that roadmap would look. Um, and then there's, of course, there's one-on-one journeys and then journey in pairs. Those are also options that I serve here in my community. And then I'll touch on this longevity retreat that's happening in January, January 18th to the 24th. This is 6 nights, 7 days with nourishing meals, daily movement practices, daily acupuncture, pulse diagnosis, somatic nervous system regulation. This is like a full reset. Like if you need like a full reset, this is definitely supported. Um, Dali is my business partner and the father of my children, my co-parent. We are consciously uncoupled, but we work together as a team. And he also supports me with traditional Chinese medicine. So he does the acupuncture, the pulse diagnosis, and the herbal remedies. And so he will be supporting that. We'll have a traditional sweat lodge. That also helps to expel and remove any energetics that we're holding on to. And then we'll have like a workshop and lots of nature immersions, relaxation, and more. And there's that investment that can also be paid in installments. I wanted to get through this. I know I talked really fast. I probably could have slowed down just a little bit, but I really wanted to honor this like this window that we had. So that concludes my presentation. And
I have
now we can,
questions because Nata,
yeah.
thank you so much. It was a lot, but I know how very responsive and how comforted I feel when I ask you questions and you
Mhm,
like kind of get personal with
mhm,
where my thoughts are. So I just
mhm.
open that up for everybody. We have
Yes,
plenty of
please.
time to take questions.
Yeah. And if there's any resistance that someone's feeling or anything like that, I can also address that too, because I've journeyed with it all, to be honest. And again, it's recorded, so you can listen to it where I'm not like, like, yeah. So please. You're muted, Tracy. I'm not sure if you're talking.
Thank you, Tracy, for unmuting me since I
Oh,
couldn't figure out how to do it myself. Hi, everyone. Wow, what a beautiful presentation and so much information and just curious, open minds, right? Like, yeah, it's a lot to take in. I think I'm gonna watch again and then kind of decide where to go with it. When you said that you do like the full day retreats and things, and you said like in our town, like would that be like back at the studio, or would we go to Canada?
no, no, I would come to to
Okay.
Ohio. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you can come here for sure.
I mean, that would be really cool too.
Only it's only a 5 hour drive. It's really lovely, and it's usually done up north at a cottage, like a retreat house cottage here, for usually, and that's usually an overnight at least. But the day retreats is something I actually host here monthly at my space. But I can always come there. I can either rent a space, or if it aligns with Tracy, I can use her like if it all aligns. But there would be a space that would
Yeah.
be accommodated
Yeah.
for. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really lovely. It's
Mhm.
really lovely. And then again, the dosing usually for the first one is like low. It's like where you're feeling it because I want people to feel it because it's important that when you're working with it that you can actually develop this relationship where you're like, oh, okay, okay, I don't have to be so scared of this and like all these projections of if I feel this, like it's really I set the space that it's very nourishing, like it's
Yeah.
very sweet.
And this is just a quick question, and if you have, I've been on antidepressants for, God, I don't even know how long, and have ADHD, so I'm medicated for that as well. Like, if you have been taking meds for a considerable amount of time, is there a window where, like, incorporation with that, or is it do you stop taking your medicine before you know that you're going to go into a retreat or something like that, or how does that work?
Yeah, great question. So typically they would say about 7 to 14 days um, to before if you were to come for a journey for a full journey. And you have to, you'd want to monitor that. I'm not like I can't tell you what to do.
Yeah.
I have a sister who was on SSRIs after her father died, and then was just like feeling super numb, and she's like, I just can't do this anymore. And I was like, well, you can't just stop taking them. Like you have to like wean
Yeah.
yourself, right?
Right.
There are actual physicians who will help you wean as well.
Hmm.
And this is where she started microdosing to supplement the serotonin dip, right? So she
Okay.
would the serotonin dip with a little bit of mushrooms, and like super like mini 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 dose, like
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
enough to get her serotonin level up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say when for ayahuasca, and ayahuasca is like really intense, right? DMT is
Hmm.
like really intense. They say the same, 7 to 15 days without any and it's usually they're more concerned about the lithium, the SSRIs that have contain lithium in them. There is an interaction that
I
really
don't think that mine does, but okay.
so yeah,
Yeah,
that
I know that it doesn't, as a matter of fact, but
and there are some really great like doctor I can find this doctor, she talks about it quite a physician and how to wean off of it, and
mhm.
how she supplements her patients with
Okay.
psilocybin.
Interesting.
I can
Yeah,
I can
that would
find her
be
name.
that would be the only, that was a even when I after I listened to your guys' podcast before, that was like one of the first things that kind of popped in my head was like, oh, but and I'm trying to remember exactly what how you phrased it, but it was like it was kind of it made me stand there for a second. I'm gonna have to listen to it again and tell you what it was, because it was like you don't even know that something is going on, because you're when you've been medicated for such a long time, it's hard to decipher where and what is the actual feeling and what is kind of being masked, in all of that. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and definitely something to explore. It was very, very, very
Well,
cool.
thank you for sharing. I think you're referring to like the interoceptive awareness, like when we can
Mm-hmm.
actually be aware of like, do we feel the changing tingling in our bodies? Do we feel our
Yeah.
heartbeat? Do we feel this, right? And usually if we're on something that kind of stops us from feeling, we're not going to feel much, right? Like it's going to
Right.
kind of stop you from feeling, kind of like even when you yeah. So it kind of numbs that out.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy, I'll be open with you. It's from what I witnessed in ceremony. It's not an easy thing to get off of. It's probably one of the harder things to get off of is SSRIs, antidepressants. However, it is more, you'll feel more embodied,
Yeah.
right? You'll feel more embodied. Like and that's what people say after, like, wow, I can't even believe that. But like, this is where the psilocybin can really be a great substitute to really help support the weaning process as well.
Right.
And of course, even like we at our clinic, we support with herbs, right? We also support people with herbs. They're working with their physician and they're working with us. We're giving them herbs, acupuncture, because the chi will help to move the energy, regulate the nervous system, right? We weren't taught how to regulate our nervous systems.
No, we
Nobody,
were
I
we were
don't know,
taught
nobody
how
taught
to
me.
destroy it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, go have a drink. Go have a drink. Yeah, just, the drink
Yeah.
will help
Right.
you. Enjoy. It's gonna numb it out. It's fine. And I
Yep.
see movies. Like I watched a movie the other day. I was like, oh my God, there's still like it's the same program. Oh, we're just gonna have a glass of wine, and like they bring out two bottles, so there are these programs, right? And it's just like having compassion with like what we received as a program, and then like, okay, I have choice. I have choice here,
Yeah.
and then working towards it each day.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very,
Thank you.
very, yeah, you opened the door of even more of my curiosity. And I won't hog the space of time, but yeah,
Uh,
thank you very much for thank you, Tracy, for unmuting me, because like I'm like I don't know how to do that. So you saw me fumbling around, and yeah, thank you for letting me share and
Thank you,
presenting
Jill. Yeah,
too.
appreciate that. Appreciate
Thanks for
that.
sharing, Jill.
Does anyone else have any questions? Even like if it's not a question, even if you're like, oh, if you're having resistance or um, have heard of things, that'd be nice to share too.
Nata, this is Cheryl. Thank you so much. Um, what do I even want to say? I am very, very interested. Um, However, I do want to respect the space and the time that would be required, I guess. And I work in the schools, I'm back to work now. I feel like summer would probably be a better time for me. I mean, I could possibly do something now, but yeah, I don't know. So, and I think there's multiple of us on this call that are from the studio. I don't know if everybody is, but so I don't know, Tracy, if you would be willing to like host something in the summer, or Nada, if I was the only one that wanted to explore something in the summer, could I work with you, or do you know of others in our area here that you could refer me to? Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm very open. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Let me ask you why, what was your hesitation? Why summer?
Um I'm currently working. I am caretaking for my mother. Sometimes we'll go through a week or two and there's no, for lack of better words, I'll just call it drama. There's no complications. Things are kind of smooth. And then there'll be a week to 3 weeks where things are just turbulent because she's declining. And I never know when that's going to happen, you know? Um, and I'm just thinking if I were to commit to this, I want to be all in. So
Mhm.
am I able to commit to something like this while these things are going on?
I feel that it would support you with what is going on. I told my mom, if you end up like your mom, girl, you're gonna be I'm gonna microdose you. I don't really care what you think. Like if you're in my care, I'm gonna microdose you. Because it really does support the like if everything's like like off kilter, like this really does help to kind of balance out the mood and the dysregulation that's going on. Um, and that's just like even from my own experience, but even just witnessing clients who, they had one experience and they stopped drinking, one experience, like low dose. That's how much it just like widened their lens and like allowed them to see a little bit deeper. And the microdosing is a great way to upkeep that after a ceremony. I personally don't think you should wait unless you feel deeply supported in your nervous system and you're like on a really good run. Then I don't know. Like I personally wouldn't wait. That's like my dad. He's like, oh, I'm gonna go to Serbia next year. I'm like, you don't know where you're gonna be next year. Why don't you go this year? Why don't you go now? Like really utilize this now, this energy. So it really depends like what you're kind of, if you're struggling with something, if you need support, then it could be a really great time because it can help you regulate while you're also being a caregiver for someone else. And I've witnessed, caregivers, my family members who are caring for my grandmother, and she has dementia. And I know it's really difficult. It's difficult because like sometimes she's just like super mean and just like aggressive and just says really mean things, and that tweaks at their nervous systems. And I just look at them like, y'all, I'm like, you guys need to microdose. You would not take her so seriously because what actually does when I working with psychedelics, I can actually see that she's in different realms. Like she literally is in different dimensions. Like she'll stop in front of a doorway and then be like, I need to go home. And I was like, really? But she's like in this threshold, right? So she doesn't realize like she's now crossed over into a threshold and I'm witnessing her. And because I work in this realm, I can see it. And so I don't take it personally, right? And I can see her getting really like, and now because she hasn't been taught how to work with these bodily sensations, right? Because she was just told to numb it or get really angry and project things. And she gets in this dimension and I see everyone's getting tweaked out. Oh, she's doing it again. I'm like, yeah, but you guys have to understand, like, she's in a different dimension. She's not even in this dimension. So working with psychedelics really helps you to like be in the liminal, right? The liminal phase is like being in the two worlds, like where we're in these two worlds. And it actually taught me a lot more compassion. It taught me a lot more compassion for society, for what people are going through. Um, and because I am so attuned to my body, I have a lot of compassion for people who actually don't even feel their bodies, because that was me before. So I never think that you need to like wait to do something. It's like wait, I'll wait to be happy. I'm just gonna wait to be happy, right? Like, and we talk about that in family constellations, right? Like we carry this loyalty. We carry loyalties to our ancestors, whether we know that or not. On the unconscious, we carry loyalties. And if our family and our ancestry has only had a certain level of happiness or joy in their life, or they've lived in poverty their whole life, we who carry this gene, we don't actually go beyond this because we have a loyalty to their suffering. We have a loyalty to their suffering. And we don't even know we're doing this, right? Or we have a loyalty to not outshine our sibling. Oh, I can't outshine them, right? Because as a child, I was told you're too much and you're doing this and you're doing that. And so we are now loyal to playing small. We're loyal to not taking up space. You get what I mean? Like we become, and then we shrink our field, right? And I'll do it later. And so these are habitual patterns, right? Even the fact that I'm just speaking openly, Cheryl, like if I was coaching you right now, like I would bring that up to be like, that's an interesting point of view that you're doing right now. So I'm gonna wait for my own happiness. I'm gonna wait to push everything there just so this person, right? So why not fill our own cup so that we can over pour into others?
Mhm.
That would be my perspective and my lens,
Yeah,
right?
and I appreciate all that. I guess if it were one day, I'm just thinking if there was a long-term commitment. Like I just texted Tracy tonight about this, and I even told her that's why like I will on my way to the yoga studio register for the class
Mm,
because I never know
mm,
when
fair.
the shit's gonna hit the fan.
Mm.
And there's nobody else that will step in. And if there's an emergency that is on me, and so I absolutely hear what you're saying, but I also am committed to, I mean, I get the whole thing pouring from an
Yeah,
empty
yeah,
cup and um
Cheryl, can I
yeah,
interrupt there?
yeah. So
Maybe
it's
it
just
would
the logistics of how
maybe the logistic piece that would help you feel like it could be organized, like it's in the possibility, would just be to do it as a private,
yeah.
because
We could
a
do
private
one-on-one.
session is like 2 3 hour session. How many hours is it? It's not like it's a week. It's not like a journey isn't a week. It's like you could do
Exactly.
perhaps like an individual session, then you could reschedule it if something came up at the last minute.
Yeah. Like group, so the difference between, thank you for that, Tracy. The difference, so group work, we have a set thing. We meet like every Tuesday at this time, right? And so that's kind of set. But if we do like one-on-one, right, then it's based on your availability in my calendar, right? So then we can kind of plug in, kind of like when you're going to yoga or whatever. I just
Mhm.
ask that it's like at least 2 days before so I can plan my kind of schedule. And then if you're thinking more of like a one-off ceremony where you're doing like a deeper ceremony, then yeah, it would be one call before the ceremony and then the actual ceremony, and then one call to integrate, and we can continue with the integration of what comes up. So it is more customizable if we want to go that way.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate, no problem. And as questions come up, like Tracy will give you my email, or you can email me and we can talk more about it. But I do feel like it's really supportive for these times right now.
Yeah, amen to that, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely, and I can see that.
yeah. But thank you for asking the question. It's like I understand.
Sure.
Yeah. I wish like I honestly wish like my whole family would microdose. They would just be so much happier and they would just like get it, like don't we and I'll give you an example. Like my aunt, she never had kids. She wasn't able to have kids. And then when my grandmother got dementia, she essentially became a child, right? So now my aunt's a caregiver for her part-time, and she's so triggered. She is so triggered. This woman is triggered by everything. This woman can just open her mouth and she's triggered. And I was like, whoa. And I tell her, I'm like, Tita, like, like I get it, but she never had kids, so she never really learned that elders can be annoying just as kids. They can, like they really can. Like, but she never really learned to attune to that. Like everything was just kind of like streamlining for her in her life. And then when this happened, it really piqued her nervous system. And now she wasn't taught the tools how to breathe. She wasn't taught how to regulate herself. She wasn't taught how to feel in her body, right? Like these are all things I want to help her with. But right now she's just like she's in survival right now. And she won't
Hmm.
she won't do anything because she's just in survival. But if we learn these tools, right? I told her one ceremony would change your life, girl. Like one ceremony, it would just like widen her lens, that like we are continuously bowing to our mothers because they brought us into this world. It doesn't matter who or what they did to us. We have like that is the only one we have. And it's like, so just like there's like foundational like teachings here too, but like it just allows us to soften. It softened my heart like more than I've ever thought possible, just because I had so much caged shielding, just so yeah, just I mean, sit with it. You'll kind of know where you're at and when it feels good and aligned. But remember, the ego always wants to take us to like, oh no, when everyone else is okay, and like, and then make sure that everyone else is okay. Then we end up not doing anything in our lives. Kim, are there tinctures for microdosing? No, I work with powdered. I work with like actual mushrooms, and I ground it up into a powder I use like a coffee grinder and I ground it up and then I put it in a jar and I store it in a cabinet where there's no light. Um, and then I microdose with that and I put it, under my tongue or I put it in my cacao. And again, the teachings in the back end of this work is I teach about ritual. What's the importance of ritual? How can we have our own ritual? How can we set our setting and matrix, and how can we support that to make it more of like a holistic approach that not so we're just microdosing, but so we can actually transform our life through this process as well. And do I do ayahuasca ceremonies? I don't personally host ayahuasca ceremonies. I have been asked to. I'm just not there yet. It's a really deep medicine. Like, she is so powerful. Like, she, like, yeah, she's beautiful. She taught me a lot, but I don't serve. I don't serve ayahuasca. Thank you for asking. But I know many practitioners, and I know, yeah, I can connect you if that was the route that you wanted to go. And if you wanted to go straight to ayahuasca, then I would also say, then I would also pitch to you that to work with integration, and I can support you for anybody who is seeking to do ayahuasca or anything, like I can support you before and after that, because you definitely want to prepare, right? Just like you want to be prepared before you have a spiritual awakening. So you go to yoga and you do the practices and you practice Kundalini and you practice the breath work versus going into spiritual emergency and then feeling dismantled with how much. And that's not always the case. And just speaking from a lens of experiences that I've experienced myself and that I've seen happen in this community as well. So I like to let's just work our way up, like a stepping stone. Does that answer your questions, Kim? And do you have any other questions?
Yes, that answered my question.
Awesome. Awesome.
I know I wanted to do the ayahuasca and then COVID hit and uh, I haven't been able to um, figure out how to do it. It sort of I went into that COVID thing, time loop.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. What were you looking to why ayahuasca? Just curious.
Because I needed a serious reset. There was a lot going on and my nervous system couldn't take it all. So I thought it would help with that.
Yes and no. It could actually this is where I talked about the setting matrix. The matrix is, are you coming back from an ayahuasca? Because ayahuasca is it can be very beautiful and it can also be very, like, lots of darkness can come out of it too, right? I've had ceremonies where it's like pure light and like, whoa, and you're like, oh my God, this is what life is. And then the next ceremony is like pure death and anacondas coming to eat my face. So, and that kind of, that's for real. And,
Mhm.
and that spun me out into spiritual emergency because I didn't have the tools to actually regulate my nervous system. So what I would say is before you go to ayahuasca, let's work on regulating the nervous system. Let's work on that embodiment, how to like work with all of that before going to something that's going to blow us open in a sense, right? And again, not everyone has the same experience. Some people feel nothing after ayahuasca because there's not an opening there, right? So it really depends on the person. I hope that like supports you a little bit at least. But I do think it's a really beautiful medicine. Actually, people now are also microdosing ayahuasca. My friend, when she was in Peru, she did like a tiny, I did like 3 cups, but she did like a tiny amount of ayahuasca too, right? Because her body actually wasn't, and this shaman was really, really good. Like he actually, I was actually scared that she was going to go do ayahuasca because I didn't think her body could actually handle it after, but he gave her the smallest dose possible, and that really taught her how to actually, but she's been practicing transcendental meditation for 5 years and like has been on this path for a while. So I would say like work on, let's regulate the nervous system, learn the tools so that when you are in ceremony with her and where you want to crawl out of your skin, that you actually know how to actually work with her in that moment, right? Like
Well,
and be
yeah, I've done all that stuff. I've done Kundalini. I've done 5 years of Vipassana meditation, and I know how to do that stuff. But it was such an overload.
mm,
I couldn't handle it, and I knew I needed something else too.
mm, mm. How are you now?
I'm still hoping I'll be able to do the ceremony. I've been microdosing for a while, and it's helped a lot. So yeah, I guess
Good.
I'm still interested in doing it, even though it feels like all of the things were blocking it.
Okay, good. I mean that's great. Like you've already had some exposure to it, and microdosing is great. And then eventually, once you even if you're working with mushrooms and with guidance and everything, you could. I have my own ceremonies. I sit by myself. Like
Yeah.
that's how I get deeper into my ceremony spaces. I create the set setting matrix and I go deep and I'm either painting or I'm like dancing naked in my place, like, or I'm crying or I'm doing everything all at once, right? But it is a very
Hmm.
medicine that we can learn to embody and work with on our own as well. Not to say that you can't do that with ayahuasca, but I believe that it does take a little bit more training because it is such a powerful, powerful medicine.
Okay. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank
for sure.
you.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
pleasure.
this was very, very extremely helpful.
Yeah. And if you have more questions, just reach out. I'm here to support you
Okay.
in creating that safety in your own space too.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or anything else that comes up? I hope that I covered everything that everyone was hoping to learn from this. And if I didn't, just let me know. And I had 150 more slides, but I cut them out. Like I could have went on and on and on and on. Like some deeper teachings too, and how the serotonin actually works, and how the receptors bind, and what SSRIs are doing versus what actually microdosing does. Whereas the SSRIs are actually blocking our brain's ability to produce serotonin, right? So it's blocking the receptors, so those it can't pass on those transmitters. And whereas microdosing psilocybin or LSD is actually promoting those receptors to produce its own, right? And how that works in the synapses too. It's really cool. If you want to nerd it out.
Nada, can you share a little bit more about glutamate, how it affects glutamate? I believe you said that it increases it, and I know the importance of
Yeah,
glutamate. So
absolutely.
that sounds like a really cool thing I was not aware of.
Yeah. Let me just open that slide so I can make sure that I.
Oh, did I just send you on a goose chase?
No, no, I got it. It's funny, like I kind of skipped over that one. I'm like, oh, maybe this is too much information. I got into my head a little bit. I had time. I didn't realize that I did have lots of time. I could have went into that, but I'll tell you right now. I'll read it to you. Glutamate. Okay.
Well, I'm a fellow nerd, so I like
Okay,
to nerd
cool.
out.
So the glutamate, so psychedelics have a profound effect on glutamate signaling in the brain. Their interaction with glutamate is a key factor in their cognitive, emotional and neuroplastic effects. And that's based, one second. And so what they're showing is that it increases glutamate release. So the psychedelic stimulates the 5-HT2A receptor, which are highly concentrated in the prefrontal cortex. And this activation triggers a cascade that boosts glutamate release. So it enhances communication between between the neurons. The second thing it does is it enhances synaptic plasticity and neuroplasticity. So the surge in glutamate activates AMPA and NMDA receptors, leading to increased brain-derived neurotrophic factor production. So it's increasing neurotrophic production, and this process promotes neural growth, learning, adaptivity, and emotional processing, explaining the lasting effects of psychedelics on behavior and perception. Altered brain connectivity and expanded awareness. Psychedelics disrupt the default mode network, so increasing connectivity between brain regions that don't usually communicate. So glutamate's role in this reorganization contributes to expanded consciousness, enhanced creativity, and deep introspection. The fourth thing is emotional release and trauma processing. Increased glutamate activity in the limbic system, so the amygdala and the hippocampus, can bring stored trauma and emotions to the surface, allowing for deep integration and healing. So that's what he called it, as a non-specific amplifier. It's actually bringing this all up to the conscious, so that we can't kind of shove it down anymore. And then the fifth thing was potential for excitotoxicity in the excessive use. So while controlled psychedelics use promotes healing and neuroplasticity, excessive activation of the glutamate receptors, especially NMDA receptors, could lead to the toxicity, contributing to anxiety, overstimulation, or neuroinflammation. This is why setting dosage and integration practices are crucial. This is why I would say start with something like lower doses of psilocybin versus going into a full-on DMT experience. Does that
Sure.
answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I'll do
You can
some
go deeper for sure.
research. Yeah, I'll geek out on that all on my own too. But that sounds
Check
incredible.
out Dr. Manesh Gurn. I'll put it in the chat. He's on YouTube. So he was actually one of my professors in this, who was one of our teachers teaching us all of this. There's so much of this I don't understand because I don't have like a medical understanding background. So he talks about it on his YouTube channel that is super informative, and he breaks this all down, and you can get way more information from him. And he studies under Dr. Carthart Harris, so the leading researcher in this.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh,
So that's Dr. Carthart. Does anyone else have any questions? You can just end off by saying that, you know, I believe with everything that we're witnessing and that's happening in the world, that the focus should be this inner world, this journey within. And the more that we can come into our in-body transformation, into our most authentic expression, we are the medicine for the world. We hold the medicine. We have all of it within us. So there's no need to be seeking anything outside of us. And I've witnessed this time and time again. And as I've done my own healing and my own journey work, and really come back into my body and allowed myself, I don't know, I have Instagram, and I dance a lot. And from someone who was so shameful to dance, to move, and working through, like, this work goes deeper. I go much deeper into when we work in ceremony. We're working on a lineage. We're working with our ancestors. I really bring in those earth-based practices, so that we can do the deeper work. And shamanically, I am holding this space, so it is safe and it is a setting that we can journey, but it continues, right? Our own stories, if we're continuously projecting the same stories into the field, we just stay in this loop, right? So it is about, this is why working with someone and working group containers where you have accountability is important, because it helps to keep us attuned. This is where I'm going, right? But if we are, when you're hanging out with people that like to gossip, or they're like have self-sabotaging habits, then you naturally, what do? You match their vibration. So what we want to do is like evolve our vibration to anchor something in a higher realm, so that we can continue to evolve on this. And that is, we're responsible for that. Like, no one can do that for us. we have to be the ones to say, you know what, I'm gonna, I'm not responsible for that. I'm responsible for my body. I'm gonna go to yoga today. And every time I do that, I do go and I'm, oh, damn, I'm so happy I did this. Like, and it's when I don't go that I'm like, oh, why? Because I let the monkey mind talk me out of it, right? So these medicines help us come into the awareness of where we're looping, right? But again, they're not going to do it for us. We have to be the ones to do it. And I believe that this is the time to be doing it. The things are changing, like the world is changing. We have to be able to change as well. So, and honoring that we're changing and we're going to continuously change, just like this, the earth, right? Just like planet and nature, constantly changing. Here we are. And so may we find like some compassion and some stability within the instability of the world. I don't have a podcast, but I've been thinking about it a lot because I'm thinking about how to share my voice versus wasting my time on Instagram. I was like, I need to share. I need to talk. So, and my North Node is in Gemini, so I am here to share my voice. Took me a lot of refinement because I'm a Leo and I had a lot of pride. So now I've like softened that. Now I just here want to share because I'm like, fuck, I changed my life, so can you. Thank
So
you.
I
Thank you
just
for
want to let everyone know that I'll download the recording and get it up on YouTube. It'll go out to you in email tomorrow.
Beautiful.
I've been up since 5 driving across the country today, so I am pretty done. So forgive me, but you'll have it by noon tomorrow.
No, thank you, Tracy.
Yeah.
Thank you for,
Yeah.
I love sacred boundaries and thank you for saying that. That's also things we need to embody is to be able to speak our truth and it's time to go to bed.
Yeah.
So we'll close off with how I typically close off was just we'll find our core stance. We can straighten our backs, open our front, taking a moment just to anchor into 3 breaths, letting go of this container. In gratitude for this conversation, for all of you for showing up for this conversation, to take what you need from this conversation. Beautiful Sister Tracy for holding this space and igniting this conversation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And officially, I'll blow out our candle, our sacred fire. If anything arises, please reach out. Thank you all for being here and for trusting me to hold the space for you and for sparking, hopefully, curiosity in your own being. Have a great evening. God bless. Thank you. Thank you, Tracy.